This pattern is called the Copper Midge. I'm tying this on a size 18. I'll tie it on an 18 or a 20. I think I saw this on Mainly. I think they're a fly shop. Got some great patterns. I'm using some black Nanosilk. Again, it's a size 18 scud hook. I've got a copper bead, which goes along with its name as the Copper Midge. I'm going to start with 2 strands of copper colored crystal flash. This is going to be the shuck. I'm going to just tie those in on the near side of the hook, and my thread tension will pull those over more towards the center. We want them on the center top of the hook. I'll turn my thread counterclockwise just to flatten it out so I don't build up too much bulk. I'm just keeping a hold of those crystal flash fibers just in an effort to keep those on the top of the hook shank here. I want to tape this a little bit back into the bend of the hook. This is a really easy pattern to tie. And I was looking for a new midge pattern to put in my box because midges are really a go-to. You can find them just about any time of the year. So you can see I've gone pretty deep into the hook bend. And I'm just going to bring my thread back forward. Now I can just grab my scissors, grab those 2 strands, and it'll clip them off here. I want the shuck to be about the length of the body, so I'm just going to take both of those, take them over to where the hook point or the eye of the hook is, and clip them off there. So that gives me the length that I'm looking for. So a little surprise, we're just going to use a piece of small copper wire. I'm going to tie that in on the lens side of the hook. I want to keep that on the side of the hook shank. And then I'm just going to go ahead and go back deep down to where the thread started, deep in the bend of the hook. Keep turning my thread counterclockwise to keep it flat because I want to keep a pretty trim body on this. You can see back down deep into that bend. I'm going to take my thread around and I'm just going to let it bounce up against the point of the hook here. Then I'm just going to take my copper wire and I'm going to just take some open wraps. Try to make them as even as possible. It always looks even to me, but then I get the camera on it to take a final photo and it is far from even. Do your best. So we'll take those open wraps right up to behind that copper bead. We've left our thread here at the back. So now I'm just going to take wraps forward, going right through those wraps of copper wire. So the copper is still showing. And then once I get up here at the top, I'll take a wrap over the top, take a wrap or 2 behind the bead, and we'll just use the helicopter friction method to spin this until it breaks off. Now I'm going to take my thread back over some of those copper wire wraps, and I want to kind of leave it right at about the hook point. So when your thread is hanging, you're pretty close to that hook point. You see my thread is kind of decided to split, which is what happens when you wrap it counterclockwise. It flattens it out. From here we're going to put a little wing butt on here, and I'm just using some white McFlylon. It's a small clump of that. Pinch that together. Going to take a wrap over the top. And I'm being kind of careful here because I want to get that clamped down right on the center top. I'm going to take a few wraps backwards on it, fairly tight. Again, this is Nanosilk, so I can crank down on it pretty hard. Take a few wraps forward. Then I'm just going to come in with my scissors. And I want this to go about halfway down the body. I certainly don't want to cut off those shucks. You can see that one of those traveled up there with me and I was about ready to lop it off. And with that done, I'm just going to go ahead and grab my scissors. I'm going to grab the front end of that McFly cut it off tight. And then I'm just going to bring my thread forward, maybe holding that in place a little bit just to make sure it doesn't slide around on me. We're just going to come up, just tidy it up behind the bead here. We'll finish it up by using a peacock curl to make a nice kind of juicy thorax here. Take a wrap or two to get that secured down. I'll pull it backwards a little bit for length. I'm going to wrap forward until I have it right behind the bead. From there I'm just going to take this peacock curl and we're going to just take touching wraps, taking at least one or two good wraps right at the base of that stubby wing, those wing buds. Then I'm just going to take as touching wraps as I can moving forward. We're just going to move this right up till we get behind the bead. And with that still in my hand, I'm just going to take my thread up and over right behind the bead, securing that curl off. A few wraps over the top, and I'll take a couple of wraps with that hurl pulled backwards right behind the bead. I just turn my hook a little bit, come in with my scissors. Sometimes I'll just pull and break it off. I just don't want to. Occasionally when I do that, it comes unwound, and I don't want to do that while I'm filming because I don't want to film this whole thing over again. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of extra thread. We'll grab our whip finisher. We're just going to whip finish this right behind the bead. Secure that nice and tight. Grab our thread cutter and remove our thread. And that's all there is to it. The Copper Midge, really a nice looking pattern, fairly easy to tie. Grab yourself a hook, throw it in your vise, and give this one a shot.